Upfronts are here, which is the time that all of the major TV networks put on over-the-top presentations to show off their programming for the 2019-2020 television season. In other words, billions of dollars are being spent by advertisers this week. I'm Elizabeth Wagmeister, and I'm here with Brian Steinberg, our senior TV editor, and Cynthia Littleton, our business editor. They have been covering Upfronts for a long time. They are the experts on Upfronts. Now, Cynthia, I just want to start off with the elephant in the room, which is this looming agency writers' war, basically. Upfronts are typically a week of celebration. The agents are always at these presentations. Of course, it's geared towards advertisers, but how will that looming war impact Upfronts?
We're really seeing a lot of the energy that is usually associated with Upfront Week. It seems tamped down this year, and this crazy war between the talent agents and the Writers Guild, which a lot of people really didn't see coming until it was right upon us. It just has people kind of flummoxed in terms of not sure where the creative community, how this is going to impact production, how this is going to impact development going forward. So there's a lot of uncertainty. Plus, you layer on top of that all of the changes, all of the big announcement that we're seeing on these global platforms that Disney is launching, Apple's going to launch. Everybody's stepping up their game. And so the Upfront Week, which used to be the end-all and be-all of the TV year, it feels a little diminished in importance, to be honest.
Now, I do want to get to all of those new platforms, streaming, digital, in a bit, but Brian, first, you are our money guy. You're the expert on that, so I want to get to you. Despite kind of this looming tension that Cynthia was just speaking about, what is the outlook for the spending this year?
It's funny because you would think that in this world where you have streaming windows and new digital guys vying for money, they'd lose some money. But in fact, in point of fact, for the last 3 years, Madison Avenue has put more money into the upfront rather than less. I think the challenge is that there's plenty of options, but very few of them are tried and true and tested. And at the same time, they also are looking for people to watch together. They want a lot of people to watch all at once. If you're Procter & Gamble trying to sell a box of diapers all day long, you can't go video by video and sell a box here and a box there on Netflix, despite a lot of competition.
Right, and that is, one of the selling points of broadcast that I think they will always have, but at least right now they certainly do have, is families sit down, you watch together on the big networks. Now, how much money do you expect will be spent this year?
In the last couple of years, we've seen it get as high as between $9 and $10 billion. And these are commitments to buy later on. And not all the money becomes actual cash, but it's a general kind of futures market of what might happen down the road.
Now, Cynthia, can you talk a bit more about these new emerging platforms that we're seeing on a global level? What does that mean for the traditional television networks, the Fox, the CBS, the ABC, the NBC, CW? What does it mean that we have Netflix, Brian referenced YouTube, we have Disney Plus now? Is that going to hurt the traditional broadcast model?
It feels like, to borrow the Game of Thrones slogan, it feels like winter is coming. There's a lot of things that have been announced. Some have hard dates on them, some don't, but there's this feeling like, wow, there's a cavalry that is coming to really fundamentally change the television business. Netflix seems to be kind of the guidepost of where the industry is going. So I think the broadcast networks, they do still have that live urgency. The biggest shows do still generate what is called multi-generational viewing, mom and dad, kid in the house. That is a real sweet spot for advertisers, as Brian said. Anybody trying to sell diapers and packaged goods, that they still really prize that audience. So you're gonna see the networks talk a lot about that. We're the place for live, mass appeal, shared national experience viewing. And that is absolutely a legitimate niche and a very big niche and important to blue chip advertisers. But there is no question that this sense of all this money and energy and resources to tackle the programming business on a global basis is not something that this industry has really focused on. And it is game-changing in terms of the way Netflix lit up the world a couple of years ago when they famously flicked the switch at CES. That was literally, 1,000 light bulbs going off in the minds of media companies that were far bigger and had far more resources, but it took this outsider to kind of show this innovative path. And we've seen the last couple of years, and I think in the next couple of years, we're going to see traditional Hollywood really try to catch up.
Now, both of you have been talking about what really the point of Upfronts is, which is advertising money being spent, which will be kind of the aftermath in the weeks following the upfront presentations, but the presentations every year, they're very exciting, over the top. You know, in Radio City at Beacon Theater, they bring out Jimmy Kimmel for a roast, they bring out Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers at, you know, Radio City Music Hall. What do you think that we can anticipate this year from the actual presentations?
Well, Kimmel's definitely coming back, and so is Kenny Mayne from ESPN. You know, this year Disney is collapsing all of its property into one big umbrella thing. They just bought all this stuff from Fox, FX, Nat Geo. You're going to see a massive Disney presentation Tuesday afternoon, kind of aimed at telling everyone you can buy everything you want here at Disney. And that's going to be there. And you're going to see that. Fox is going to be a lot smaller. They've sold a lot of things at Disney, so you're going to be, I think, a heavier emphasis on sports, which they have a ton of to sell. Almost every major player in the main upfront has changed significantly. AT&T now owns Time Warner. CBS has got a different CEO they haven't had for the last 15, 20 years. Every major player is slightly different, and it's going to be a unique upfront this year.
I mean, I don't think you can overstate that. Up front, you will see the impact of the historic Disney-Fox transaction when they put up this array of content and networks and channels. You know, Disney always puts on a good show, and I'm sure it will be very impressive, but there is no question that it will pale a little bit compared to a couple of weeks ago when Disney really lifted the curtain on Disney Plus. That was a lot of talent, a lot of brands, Star Wars, Marvel. It was just incessant. You're not going to get quite that at the presentation that will largely focus on ABC, because this is still the broadcast week, but they will show you, as Brian said, the array of what they have to offer. And what they want to do, what all these gigantic companies want to do, is have enough assets to cover the waterfront in terms of demographics, in terms of people that you might want. Hey, advertisers, we are one-stop shopping. We can slice and dice, and we can package things together. You're really going to see a lot of emphasis on that. Big is the watchword here. Now,
Cynthia, I do want to ask you a bit about the programming and what we expect these networks to show off, because as both of you have mentioned, there have just been huge properties, huge names coming from these new emerging platforms. I mean, Netflix has the Obamas, Apple has Oprah. How do you compete with that?
It is really hard. There is no question, and I think any network executive would acknowledge, you know, that this is a challenge time, that talent is, you know, both following the money and following the heat, which is not exactly in broadcast TV. But again, broadcast does you know, some things very, very well. You're going to see a lot of emphasis on live events, on urgency. You will see, you know, the general sort of array of dramas. We will find, you know, there will be, what do they say, cops, docs, and lawyers. You know, there will be medical shows, there will be procedural shows, sitcoms. We're seeing a lot of family-oriented sitcoms. We're seeing a lot of female lead shows that have a lot of traction, and I think that is very much in keeping with the zeitgeist. In past years, there have always been 1 or 2 or 3 shows that everybody's talking about. This could be a game changer. There doesn't appear to be a This Is Us on the horizon this year, but it's early yet. We will see. I think the star power is the thing that we will really notice this year is lighter, especially on the heels of really glitzy presentations from other platforms.
You know, TV has always been a star-making model, so I'm sure that we will see something pop, which we can't even anticipate at this time. But I believe it was last year, and I think it was Seth Meyers who came out during NBC's Upfront, and he said, "Have we mentioned This Is Us? Have you heard of This Is Us?" So they might do that again this year. But Cynthia, Brian, thank you so much for weighing in on Upfronts. And of course, for all your Upfronts coverage, go to Variety.com or follow us on Twitter.